Mr. President, distinguished members of the Security Council, the issue before the Council today is not the character of the government of Venezuela. The issue is whether any member state, by force, coercion, or economic strangulation, has the right to determine Venezuela's political future or to exercise control over its affairs. This question goes directly to Article 2, Section 4 of the United Nations Charter, which prohibits the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. The Council must decide whether that prohibition is to be upheld or abandoned. Abandoning it would carry consequences of the gravest kind. Offer some background. Since 1947, the United States foreign policy has repeatedly employed force, covert action, and political manipulation to bring about regime change in other countries. This is a matter of carefully documented historical record. In her book, Covert Regime Change, political scientist Lindsay O'Rourke documents 70 attempted U.S. regime change operations between 1947 and 1989 alone. These practices did not end with the Cold War. Since 1989, major United States regime change operations undertaken without authorization by the Security Council have included, among the most consequential, Iraq 2003, Libya 2011, Syria beginning in 2011, Honduras 2009, Ukraine 2014, and Venezuela from 2002 onward. The methods employed are well established and well documented. They include open warfare, covert intelligence operations, instigation of unrest, support for armed groups, manipulation of mass and social media, bribery of military and civilian officials, targeted assassinations, false flag operations, and economic warfare. These measures are illegal under the UN Charter, and they typically result in ongoing violence, lethal conflict, political instability, and deep suffering of the civilian population. The recent U.S. record with respect to Venezuela is also clear. In April 2002, the U.S. knew of and approved an attempted coup against the government. In the 2010s, the United States funded civil society groups actively engaged in anti-government protests. When the government cracked down on the protests, the U.S. followed with a series of sanctions. In 2015, President Barack Obama declared Venezuela to be, and I quote, an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. In 2017, at a dinner with Latin American leaders on the margin of the UN General Assembly, President Trump openly discussed the option of the U.S. invading Venezuela to overthrow the government. During 2017 to 2020, the United States imposed sweeping sanctions on the state oil company PDVSA. Oil production fell by 75% from 2016 to 2020, and the real GDP per capita declined by 62%. The UN General Assembly has repeatedly voted overwhelmingly against such unilateral coercive measures. Under international law, only the Security Council has the authority to impose such measures. On the 23rd of January 2019, the United States unilaterally recognized Mr. Juan Guaido as interim president, and a few days later froze approximately $7 billion of Venezuelan sovereign assets held abroad and gave the designated authority over certain of these assets. These actions form part of a continuous U.S. regime change effort spanning more than 2 decades. In the past year, the United States has carried out bombing operations in 7 countries, none of which were authorized by the UN Security Council, and none of which were undertaken in lawful self-defense under the Charter. The targeted countries include Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, Yemen, and now Venezuela. In the past month, President Trump has issued direct threats against 6 UN member states, including Colombia, Denmark, Iran, Mexico, Nigeria, and of course, Venezuela. Members of the Council are not called upon to judge Nicolas Maduro. They are not called upon to assess whether the recent U.S. attack and ongoing naval quarantine results in freedom or in subjugation. Members of the Council are called upon to defend international law, and specifically the UN Charter. The realist school of international relations, articulated most brilliantly by John Mearsheimer, accurately describes the condition of international anarchy as the tragedy of great power politics. Realism is therefore a description, not a solution for peace. Its own conclusion is that anarchy leads to tragedy. In the aftermath of World War I, the League of Nations was created to end the tragedy through the application of international law. Yet the world's leading nations failed to defend international law in the 1930s, leading to renewed global war. The United Nations emerged from that catastrophe as humanity's second great effort to place international law above international anarchy. In the words of the Charter, the UN was created, quote, to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind. Given that we are in the nuclear age, failure cannot be repeated. Humanity would perish. There would be no third chance. To fulfill its responsibilities under the Charter, the Security Council should immediately affirm the following actions. The United States shall immediately cease and desist from all explicit and implicit threats or use of force against Venezuela. The United States shall terminate its naval quarantine and all related coercive military measures undertaken in the absence of authorization by the UN Security Council. The United States shall immediately withdraw its military forces from within and along the perimeter of Venezuela, including intelligence, naval, air, and other forward deployed assets positioned for coercive purposes. Venezuela shall adhere to the UN Charter and to the human rights protected in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Secretary General, I recommend, should immediately appoint a special envoy mandated to engage relevant Venezuelan and international stakeholders and to report back to the Security Council within 14 days with recommendations consistent with the Charter, and the Security Council should remain urgently seized of this matter. All member states should refrain from unilateral threats, coercive measures, or armed actions undertaken outside the authority of the UN Security Council. In closing, Mr. President and distinguished members of the Council, peace and the survival of humanity depend on whether the United Nations Charter remains a living instrument of international law or is allowed to wither into irrelevance. That is the choice before this Council today. Thank you very much.
Yes, greetings and welcome everyone, family, brothers and sisters. Right now, United Nations Security Council is discussing what happened in Venezuela after the capture of, or after United States of America captured Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela. Have heard many leaders condemning, many countries condemning, but the question is, we know very well that US has veto power. So we can discuss all these things, but US can neutralize all these things within a second through veto power. So will US being affected by discussions, or will US hear what the UN Security Council is talking about while US has a veto power? So those are my questions that of course I'm asking myself, because I see the rule of the jungle is still there. The weak will disappear, the strong will survive. There's no way the UN Security Council discussing or opposing US while they're still in the land of US. Can they, what if Trump can tell them that remove your office here? What will happen? And we know very well that US is also sponsoring and contributing much on the UN than any country. So do you see this will impact, or we are just discussing? Because I don't think there's a way these PAF nations can be stopped. No one can stop these PAF nations. We have seen Russia to Ukraine, People lamented, spoken many things, but when Russia said, I want this, if you don't follow, I'm coming after you, the entire world kept silent. The same to America. Right now, people are lamenting, America violating international law. Yes, international law, but international law for weak, international law for unorganized. If you talk about United States of America, you're talking about unity. You're talking about huge United States. And that's why we have been insisting Africans that there's a need also for Africans, African continent to unite. If we can unite, we can be powerful. America is powerful everywhere, whether in technology, America is powerful. Whether in science, America is powerful. In medicine, America is powerful. Militarily, America is powerful. And in space, America is powerful. Where America is weak. In terms of unity, America is powerful. Americans are so united. Come to Africa. We are disorganized. We are disunited. Even our challenges cannot be solved here in the continent of Africa. You heard and you watched on television when Trump bring together President Kagame and also President Tshisekedi and signed peace agreement. You can see how if you are united, you become powerful. But if you are not united, you become weak. So family, I think there's a need for African countries to start reflecting and understand the importance of unity, because if we don't unite, something is coming. We will disappear, of course. We are weak and we will disappear. You see people disappearing in Congo, in Sudan, and somewhere else. If we don't unite, we will disappear the way we have seen other countries right now, people disappearing. So I think we young people have to push our agenda of unity. We think that politicians will push this agenda. This agenda is not about politicians. This is our agenda. If we young Africans in each nation, in each country, we can start pushing and calling our leaders to unite. Sometimes I saw people demonstrating during elections and something like that, but people are not ready to demonstrate and to protest for African unity. So do you think we will unite by this kind of leadership? Do you think President Ruto is ready to unite with maybe President Museveni? Do you think Kagame is ready to unite with President Felix Tshisekedi of Congo? Do you think Bola Ahmed Tinubu is ready to unite with President Traore? Or do you think Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara is ready to unite with Traore? So it's we young people who can push this agenda, because if we don't push the agenda of unity, if we don't come on the street and showing our appetite of unity, politicians are not ready. And if you look what politicians are doing right now is lobbying Africans. They give Africans capes, they give Africans t-shirts, they give Africans these smaller things, even salt. They distribute maybe 1 kilogram of sugar to some families for them to be voted into government. So we don't have right-minded people and on government positions. We have people who are looking for stealing or who are ready to steal. So I think the only solution to avoid all those things or to bring people together is for we Africans to come together, especially young people, to push the agenda of unity. And I'm very happy to see what is happening in Burkina Faso. And I fall in love with the people of Burkina Faso. When they heard something about Traore, they came out in numbers to see what is happening. They are trying to do everything to protect their leader because they have lost Thomas Sankara. They spent almost more than 20 or almost 30 years, near 30 years since they lost Sankara, and today they have got another one who have the same spirit, Captain Ibrahim Traore. And that's why you see they are ready to do anything to protect that man. And it's not about the people of Burkina Faso, it's about we, the people of Africa. We have to protect Traore because Traore is a symbol of hope, resilience, unity, and Pan-Africanism. So let us not speak for too long. So those are what I have to share right now. But all in all, family, we need to come together. We need to unite. If we don't unite, the rule of the jungle will face us. Black winter will face us. Will disappear, of course. So for us to sustain, we need to come together and unite. Share this video to other Africans. Tell them that if we don't unite, we will disappear. If we don't come together, we'll be defeated. If we don't come together, we will be captured. The only solution for we Africans to be strong is to come together. So, see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Africa. Mama Africa. Oh, yeah. You make Africa great. Thank you, freedom. Thank you, Africa.